This isn't a Hollywood scandal. This is a homicide case involving one of the most recognizable families in America. And the details investigators have confirmed are darker than people realize. Rob Reiner is one of those names that's been quietly stitched into American culture for decades. And even if you don't immediately recognize his face, you've almost certainly felt his work somewhere. Movies people quote without realizing that they're quoting them. Stories that became cultural landmarks without ever feeling flashy about it. And then, without warning, the headline hits. Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele Singer Reiner, are dead. And authorities say it's homicide. And their adult son, Nick Reiner, has been arrested and charged. That's when the story stops feeling distant, because this isn't about fame anymore. It's about something far more disturbing. Violence inside a family, behind closed doors, in a home where no one expects something like this to happen. And in cases like this, speculation spreads faster than facts. Social media fills in the gaps with guesses, and people start building motives before prosecutors even finish filing paperwork. So that's not what this video is going to be about. What we're going to do instead is walk through 5 very specific details in this case, details that investigators, prosecutors, and courts have publicly confirmed so far. So that's no rumors, no armchair psychology, and no pretending we know what happened minute by minute inside that house. Just the facts that matter right now, and why they matter. Detail 1. What officials say happened to Rob and Michele and why that matters. One of the first big, hard facts that came out in this case was the official cause of death. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner determined both deaths were caused by multiple sharp force injuries and ruled them as homicides. The phrase sounds clinical. Sharp force injuries. But matters legally. And it matters psychologically. Legally because it immediately points investigators towards certain possibilities. The type of weapon, the nature of the attack, and what kind of evidence may exist at the scene. And it matters publicly because it eliminates a whole category of speculation. This wasn't an accident, and this wasn't a natural death that later turned suspicious. Officials came out and said it plainly. Homicide. That's why the case caught fire fast. It wasn't just tragedy. It was a criminal case from the start. Detail number 2. The charges aren't just murder. Prosecutors allege special circumstances. When the son of 2 well-known people gets arrested, the public immediately asks the same questions. What are the charges? How strong is the case? And what kind of sentence is on the table? According to reporting on the charging decision, Nick Reiner was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and prosecutors added special circumstances, including multiple murders. Now, why does that matter? Because special circumstances is not just dramatic wording. It can raise the stakes in a major way. In California homicide cases, it's the kind of charging framework that can affect eligibility for the harshest penalties, depending on how the case proceeds and what's ultimately proven. Multiple outlets reported that the case could carry life without parole, or potentially the death penalty. Though whether prosecutors pursue one outcome or another can depend on factors that develop over time. So even early on, the prosecution signaled something. They're not treating this like a muddled accident or a lesser charge. They filed it at the top level. Detail number 3, the discovery of the bodies and the how did we get here moment. A case like this always has that one brutal hinge point in the timeline, the moment someone realizes something is wrong. CBS News reported that Rob and Michele were found dead at their home in Brentwood, and that multiple sources told CBS their daughter, Romy Reiner, found them. That detail matters because it grounds the story back into something human. Forget celebrity for a second. Imagine being the person who walks into that. It's also important because those early discovery details often become the starting line for everything else, such as when were they last seen alive, who spoke to them last, who had access to the home, and what was the sequence of calls, texts, and missed contacts that led to someone checking in. And while we don't have every answer publicly, and if you see someone online claiming they do, they're probably filling gaps with drama. But we do have that core fact. Authorities were called, a homicide investigation began, and the family became part of the public record in the worst possible way. Detail number 4. The arrest happened the same day, and the timeline is tight. Another detail that shaped early perceptions of this case is how quickly Nick Reiner was arrested. CBS reported that police responded to the home on December 14th and that Nick Reiner was located and arrested that night. That tight timeline is significant. It suggests investigators felt they had enough to take him into custody within hours, not weeks. Now, this doesn't prove guilt, that's what the court is for, but it does signal that law enforcement believed the investigation pointed to him early. CBS also reported that the police said he was being held without bail. And here's where the story gets even darker, because the police always want to know what was the immediate lead and what connected him. Authorities haven't publicly laid out every piece of evidence in detail, but they usually don't early on. But that same day arrest becomes part of the case's shape. It frames it as an event that spiraled quickly, not a mystery that lingered. Detail number 5. The court appearance and the medical clearance issue, which is a rare public glimpse. A lot of true crime cases live in rumor until a courtroom forces reality onto paper. In this case, reports indicate Nick Reiner made an initial court appearance where he did not enter a plea, and the arraignment was continued until January 7th of 2026, with discussion that he was not medically cleared for a scheduled proceeding. Now, why does that matter? Because it's one of the only times the public gets a structured official view of where the case is at, and not just what someone heard. But what is happening procedurally, dates, steps, representation, and the first public posture of the defense. Another major public development, multiple outlets reported he retained high-profile defense attorney Alan Jackson. That's not evidence of anything, but it tells you the defense is preparing for a serious, high-stakes fight, which matches the seriousness of the charges. And here's the part that always messes with people. The public wants a clean story. They want a motive that fits in a tweet. They want a villain you can point at and a reason you can package. But real cases like this, especially family cases, almost never come with that clean narrative. Right now, what we do have are the 5 anchors. 1. Official says this was homicide by sharp force injuries. 2. Prosecutors filed first-degree murder charges with special circumstances. 3. The bodies were found in their Brentwood home, reportedly by their daughter. 4. The suspect, Nick Reiner, was arrested the same day. And 5. The case is now moving through court with a continued arraignment date. Everything else, the why, the how, what happened minute by minute, that's part of the public doesn't know yet. And pretending we do is how misinformation spreads. So if you're watching this story develop, watch the court filings, watch what the law enforcement actually states, and watch what gets proven, not what gets posted. Cases like this don't resolve cleanly or quickly, and what we know right now comes from official statements, charging documents, and court appearances, and that means the story is still unfolding. As more verified information comes out, the picture will either become clearer or more complicated. And when that happens, it's important to separate what's proven from what's assumed. If you want to stay updated as this case moves through the legal process without the rumors, without the speculation, you can subscribe here. I'll only cover it again where there's something real to report. And if you found this breakdown helpful, leaving a like helps more than you think. It tells the algorithm there's still an audience for careful, fact-based true crime. Thanks for watching.